Hello everyone. Welcome to MOMspiration event. It's a one-day virtual event organized by Disha Publication, co-organized by Frontlist, and support by Rotary International. We have the immense pleasure that we have Dr. Samir Parekh with us. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part. Dr. Samir Parekh is a psychiatrist and played significant role in enhancing the image and reach of mental health across the country. He's a great personality when it comes to mental health and awareness around it. It's a great honor for us to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
So the topic for today's session is skills for life beyond academics. And we couldn't have chosen a better guest for this than you, sir, because your expertise around this field is something that will be really enlightening for the session. So shall I proceed with the questions, sir?
Sure.
So my first question to you, sir, is people have perceived the notion that getting good grade is something that will help you succeed professionally. In your future, what would you like to say in that context? People always believe the fact that if you are good at grades, you're good at studies, you will succeed professionally. Is that true, sir? Only a person who's good with grades can succeed?
No, that's obviously untrue. At the same time, I don't think we should undervalue marks in totality. I think that's also not completely true.
Right.
But the fact is, to be successful, you need to have the right skill set. You need to be able to navigate through ups and downs well. You need to have the right communication skills, your confidence. More importantly, you should also have the right skill set for what you are doing. So, for example, if I have to practice medicine, then I need to go through the course which trains me. Similarly, if you are, let's say, doing HR or you are doing designing, so you're going through courses as well. Those also have a meaning, which is your skill.
Right.
Task skill. So your task skills, your life skill set, all of them go together. To say that marks guarantee you success, not true. To say that marks don't matter at all in the scheme of lives, also not true.
Right. So as we all of us are growing up, we have this immense pressure on us that if when it comes to choosing the field, somebody who's choosing science is somebody whose value is slightly more when it comes to students who choose arts and commerce. Do you think this pressure that we have on children to choose the right things academically, choose certain streams is way too much for children to grow up?
No, I think it's about how your environment is as a student.
Right.
What is the approach your school and teachers have? What is the approach your upbringing, your parents have? What is the kind of peer pressure you are going through? All of that needs to be looked into a perspective. There is absolutely no way to say that science is better than humanities. There is no evidence.
Yeah.
In fact, humanities is growing so much more.
Absolutely.
So to say that only so-called medical or engineering degree that we used to talk about years back, decades back is the only way forward in life. And I think that stands clearly exposed and not true. At the same time, I feel children should be allowed to choose various combination subjects so that they can explore,
right,
and figure out for themselves what they want to do. And eventually, with this exposure, we need to see the aptitude, the interest, the motivation, the skill set. All of that needs to come together so that you can be successful.
Absolutely. Moving on, how can parents initiate to bring more opportunities for their child apart from education?
Even in education, parents have a role to play, which means not merely giving a tuition or encouraging to study. It's about the study skills, how to concentrate, how to prepare your room, what methodology to use, what are the best ways to memorize, how do you prepare for a test, how do you revise, how do you stay focused. All of that is also something parents need to talk about. Parents need to talk about their own stories from their school days, college days, their experiences, their struggles, because children will learn through that as well.
Right.
At the same time, parents need to focus on the non-academic aspects as well, which is physical activity. So your children should be involved in some sports or the other. Communication, social network. So you should encourage them to have more and more friends and spend time with them. And creative interest. which is any creative interest which can act as a stress buster for your child as they grow up, which could range from music, art, plants, so on and so forth. So something like that. You need to ensure that your child is cheerful, enjoying every moment and learning as well, but growing in a holistic manner.
Right. But sometimes we as children are not able to express our mental health needs to our parents. And do you think parents does not take the needs of a child, mental needs of a child seriously as they should? Something that we ignore as society.
I don't think this is about children or parents. I think most people, children or adults, likewise, are not as open about mental health as they should be. We have a long way to
Right.
go. A lot of times we are welcomed when we talk about mental health. Many more times we aren't. So
Right.
psychological first aid is something we all need to learn. Awareness about mental health we need to develop. Create spaces where people can express themselves and their mental health concerns and get support. That has to be our approach for families, for schools, for colleges, for workplaces, likewise.
So how can we create that awareness? As we all say, we need the awareness for the society, but how can it be created?
By talking about it again and again and again, at each opportunity. And life will give you teaching moments. You hear a new story, which is about, let's say, somebody going through some crisis, use that as a teaching moment. Or you see some athlete doing something phenomenal, use that as a teaching moment as to what would have happened. You get good stories, negative stories, everything coming, use them as teaching moments. Secondly, in our conversations, especially in social media, we need to ensure factual information related to mental health, positive tonality to our conversations, and not rebuffing, mocking, no slurs, no negativity around mental health expressions. And consistently, we need to keep talking about on mental health at as many forums as we can, very, very consistently, that mental health becomes normalized.
But I strongly believe in our country, mental health is somewhere or the other is a taboo. We don't want to talk about it. We
I
don't.
don't think it's about our country. I think it's a grossly misunderstanding that we like to have about our own selves. If you look at
Yeah.
data from worldwide, stigma continues to be one of the core reasons worldwide where people do not seek help. And it's not merely about India or other countries, it's about the entire world. Even today, where we stand, stigma around mental health is the reason why people don't seek help. The difference is that between low income, middle income, high income countries essentially is about the availability of experts. That's where we are lagging. But then we can compensate it with Digital India and ensure that the digital outreach creates that access to experts given the deficit of experts. But to say that we are more stigmatized around mental health as compared to others, I don't think that is an approach that helps anybody. Worldwide, we need to work on our mental health destigmatization, because that's the way forward.
The stigma is exactly right. It's just not India, it's worldwide. And it's something that we need to get rid of because the stigma is so much that people feel scared about the fact that we need to talk about our mental health. There's so much misleaded, they're misunderstood when it comes to this. So I shall move on to my next question. Along with education, emotional and spiritual growth is something that plays an essential role in a child's development. What do you think about it? Is that true?
So when I mention holistic development, every
Yeah.
aspect about our life, physical health, mental health, emotional health, social health, spiritual aspects of our life, our community living, our productivity, our contribution to life, our values, our education, our health, our mental health, all of that put together makes who we are, our unique
Right.
self. And you can't focus on one aspect of yourself at the cost of the other. That's not how it works.
And what steps can be taken to reveal the creative side of the child? What should be taken to encourage the creativity inside him?
Value it, prioritize it. So if your child has some interest, help your child explore it. Encourage your child. School should also do that. Art, expressive arts, creativity, bring in the sense of positivity, mastery. They bring in a sense of positive distraction. They're relaxing. They help you develop your mind. They help you in problem solving. They help you in social skills as well. So understand the importance of it. And when you see your child having an inclination towards something, support.
Okay, moving on. As you're the psychiatrist, so you must be knowing about the signs and symptoms when it comes to mental health problems. So when the child who's suffering from some learning disability, how can a parent identify that some issue is there with the child? What are the points that the parent should undertake when they need to identify the fact if the child is suffering from some mental issue or not?
So look at mental ailments. So look at these components. Let's start with behavior. If you feel a change in behavior is happening, child becoming too withdrawn, crying a lot, becoming too aggressive, change happening in social behavior, avoiding people, avoiding friends, change happening in physical health, appetite, sleep, change happening in emotional self, which is feeling either low or very irritated, changes happening academically, performance going down, concentration aspects, careless mistakes, absenteeism,
Right.
avoidance, any of this happening. Besides that, you should also, when it comes to younger children, you need to be aware about how their development is going as per age appropriate development. If you think that's lagging, so it's about your awareness when it comes to development. More so, it's also about your understanding if the child is going through any change, if these changes are happening consistently and causing a decline in the overall functional or functionality of the child, then you need to talk to someone.
For the child's betterment, we need to go to a doctor and obviously get it solved. But sometimes parents lack this identification, and there's a lot of cases that parents can't identify the fact that there's some issue with the child.
Also, that's why, like I said, we keep talking about mental health. We keep educating people about mental health. We've written a mental health curriculum, which has been used in a couple of countries. And of course, in a lot of schools in India, where we've trained teachers into a mental health curriculum. And I think that is the way forward. The curriculum needs to be both for teachers and parents. For those who are interested, you can read about the mental health curriculum that we've written. It's available online.
And would you think schools can play a role when it comes to special children with their special education needs? Do you think every school should also cater them rather than just specific special schools?
Yes, I mean, ideally, inclusiveness means that all schools should have the ability.
Right.
And we need to work towards it.
But do you think, are we? Because there's a lot of schools that don't. Like when in those big names as well.
Lots of schools do not have school counselors as well. That
Absolutely.
does not mean that we do not aim for having a counselor in each school and then developing a counseling program or a counseling unit in each school, because one counselor per school is also inadequate. Similarly, we have inclusiveness for children with special needs and ensure that we're able to give those during the time that the child is in school, so that need of extra services or external services is minimized.
And I feel sometimes the child also feels really insecure about the fact going to a counselor. He always has this fear in the back of the mind. What if somebody sees me going to the counselor? It becomes a really neurotic problem for him.
I don't see it like that. I think it's more about how the environment is behaving. So this may apply to a school or a corporate or a college. And that's why we need to create an environment where mental health conversations are spontaneous, mental health conversations are not discouraged, so that children or adults do not feel hesitant to speak to someone.
Absolutely. Moving on, how is classroom learning different from life skills for personal development?
I think both have a role. Classroom learning is very important in our lives, but at the same time, life skills learning is also important. Life skills learning will be both taught and learned through expression and through conventional teaching as well.
Right.
Both combinations have to be there. Schools are grounds where adults are made and personalities are formed and futures are shaped. You don't have a future without skills. So beyond the math and science that we teach, we need to ensure that we focus on life skills.
But do you believe the fact that sometimes we prioritize the classroom studies slightly more than the life skills part?
We prioritize academics, marks, and conventional subjects a lot more than the
Yeah.
overall life skills development. That's a fact. We can't debate it because it's a fact. We need to have an approach where collectively all stakeholders realize the importance from all stakeholders need to realize this.
Absolutely. Moving on, how does practical exposure alter child's learning?
Why only a child's learning? It applies for all of us. I mean, I am a medical professional, so I've had both theoretical learning in conventional classrooms and practical learning through our internships and our rotation and residencies. Throughout your life, you will need a combination of both theory and practical learning. Why only for children?
So, as growing up, did you had any personal experience when you feared education or anything that chasing marks or anything, any personal experience that you had at
No, I
your
didn't. I didn't. Those were much better times. I mean, I passed out my 12th in 89. My bio teacher used to remind me to ensure that I don't stop playing cricket or don't stop listening to music. And I was a medical entrance student. And the education was that make sure that you do other things and not just focus only on studies and take your breaks and do the playground. Those were different times without smartphones, without internet, without mobile phones, without all of these things, social media, much better times that we could actually have physical activity and sports, lots of social, true sense social relationships and friends time and family time, and find our own time to study and create the right balance.
So, as we're talking about social media, do you think social media is more of a bane than a boon when it
No,
comes to education?
I don't think that's true. I think if you use it properly, it's a boon. If you don't, it's a bane. To say that it's more this, more that is again, it's a futile exercise. Social media has shown us during COVID how it has really helped people. It's also shown that by fake news, how can it distract people? It's also shown us that if you can stay connected and do advocacy for meaningful things that matter to you, at the same time you can be lost in conformity of likes and shares. So it's you who have to decide of how your engagement with social media is.
But I think the current generation, our gram generation, is prioritizing social media way too much than the person's life skills or any other thing. I think for at least 10 to 11 hours, we're using the phone and looking at people and their perfect bodies and their beautiful lifestyles may harm our mental health most of the times, I believe.
The fact is what you're seeing is not the complete truth, and that's where media literacy comes, which is also a life skill for generations to come. You all need to become media literate so that you have the power over social media and not the reverse.
Absolutely. School has started giving importance to curricular activities. What is your take on that?
I believe extracurricular activities should always be important. All forms of creative and sports that you can explore, you should explore in schools and develop and find for yourself what you like.
Do you think any policies or any reforms that you would like to suggest government when it comes to life skills empowerment for in a child's life? Any policies that the government should make for schools or anything? Do you believe is
I
necessary?
think mental health curriculum needs to become mandatory in schools, and that has to be the way forward.
And as we were talking about counselors, do you believe, as I said, one counselor is not enough for every school, and sometimes some schools even don't have one? What should be the resolve for this problem? What exactly can
That's
be done?
why teachers trained in mental health curriculum, teachers who have inclination towards supporting children for their psychological well-being to be given basic counseling training, psychological first aid to be given to all people who interact with children. Basic these three things must happen, and then utilize digital means to have a better expert network available to the children and their parents.
Absolutely. And as we're talking about psychiatrists, doctors, and things, when you require assistance when it comes to mental health, what exactly you all do? Because you're already practicing it, but I think in some point of life, a mental health practitioner, also requires assistance.
Like what a cardiologist would have done if the cardiologist was having chest pain, would have gone to a cardiologist and asked what to do.
But do you
It's not
feel
different. I mean, this is a field, that's a field. At the end of the day, these are all same aspects of field. I'm a psychiatrist. I next chamber is my colleague from urology, and the next chamber is my colleague from neurology, and the chamber after is a neurosurgeon sitting. We're all sitting in the same, one room after the other. So we can develop any of these. This is human body. We can develop any of these problems. You go to the expert.
and any tips that you would like to give for a younger generation to improve our mental health?
Prioritize mental health. Your happiness, your well-being has to be your goal. If you are happy, cheerful, you would be probably doing everything right. You'll be doing fine academically, you'll be doing fine with your friends, you'll be having good relationships with your family, your physical health would be fine, you'll be enjoying life. So if you prioritize well-being and mental health, and if you're enjoying day by day, and at the same time growing and moving forward, that's the approach you need to have in life.
Does family and emotional imbalance at home affects education of a child?
Yes. Why only education? It affects every aspect of the child. So if the home atmosphere is not conducive, it's not safe, it has a lot of conflict, children's personality, their performance, their social development, all of it gets affected.
And if we see the current cutoffs for DO, people scoring 100%, 90%, 99%, DO is not speaking anything less than 96% in the recent cutoffs. Do you believe it's an immense pressure on a child's mind by seeing these cutoffs? 100%.
We can't do much about it, can we? This what is a fact is a fact. I mean, if somebody scored 400 runs in a one day, then you just can't be looking at the scoreboard. You have to still play on each ball and do what it is. Yes, we need to look at how our cutoffs and marks are, but I think we also need to look at how many educational institutes that are there. And that also needs to be seen. I think we need to develop our educational system, make it more robust, make it more vocational, make it more synced with times. And that's how we take it forward. But the fact is, if you have X number of seats and X multiplied by 500 people appearing for those X number of seats, naturally you'll have cutoff numbers which will be as bizarre as 100. So that's how it is.
Do you think schools should have divided classes as per capabilities? Children who are scoring way too well in class should be in separate classes, and children who are not scoring well should be in different, because their learning patterns are different. Do you
But that
believe
is not true. That is not true. And I don't think we need to segregate people based on performance. Performance is not a cross section. Performance is a longitudinal axis. The performance today may be something, it may be something else tomorrow. But you don't segregate people, you create inclusive classrooms, not segregated classrooms.
Do you think schools should have some remedial classes for the ones who need a little assistance when
Yes.
it comes to education?
Whether it is special needs, whether it is remediation, whether it is extra support, whatever can be done within school premises should be encouraged.
And how can be this promoted? What should school exactly do to promote this particular thing?
To promote, they need to identify children, work with the parents, work with the experts or subject experts, and give the right kind of guidance and support to kids.
And final tips, do you have any tips for the school premises and the teachers when dealing with children with special needs?
I think we need to be empathetic. We need to be grounded with our values. We need to have our goals very clear. Each child is special. Each child is unique. And we have to shape each child's future to the best that they can and be the right kind of facilitators. That has to be our approach when it comes to education. We need to prioritize mental health.
What role does journaling play when it comes to improvement of mental health?
So, I mean, we can start looking at one thing after another thing. I mean, today you're talking about journaling, then it can be sports, then it can be creative arts, expressive arts, it could be music, it could be meditation, it could be yoga, it could be, I mean, based on what your personality is, what you like, there are lots of aspects that you can use for your own self-care and betterment.
So as you said, it depends on the personality. If your personality suits journaling, as if it's something that will help you release out, then journaling for you. But if you have a different personality trait, then something different will be suitable.
Absolutely. I'm not into journaling. I wouldn't write. But I'd much rather read or maybe listen to music and still find my release. Or frankly, I'd much rather talk to a friend and talk about it. So you can't just pick up one thing and say this applies to everybody. Individuals are unique, our personalities and experiences are unique. What works for us would be unique.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Samir Parekh, for being a part of our event. We had an insightful session and it did not feel like an interview for sure. It just felt like a cup of coffee I'm having with somebody who's explaining me things in such a beautiful manner that all the doubts around mental health is cleared. I am so thankful and delighted over the fact that you are here today. Thank you so much, and I'm completely honored to be interviewing you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you.